All right. Good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where it is you're joining us from. Let's go ahead and get started. First thing I want to go ahead and do is share my screen with you guys. And if you're here with us for the very first time or you're watching this as a recording, just want to point out to you some things that'll be helpful. First thing I'd like to point out is we have a Facebook group that coincides with this meetup, and it has the same name. I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. You can find us by going into your own Facebook account, going into where it says search Facebook, and then go ahead and type that in, and you'll find our group. The other way to find us is you can go directly to facebook.com/groups/ I want to be really rich is one word. And that's another way to come find us. So once you find us, please ask to join us. And why would you want to join us? A few different reasons. Reason number one, if we have anything special to announce to the entire group, it'll typically be pinned to the top. Also, as long as I remember to hit the record button, which I typically do, we record these Zoom meetings. So what we do when they're done is the same day or the very next morning. Typically, it will be posted right here. As you can see, there's yesterday and the day previous and so on and so forth. So if you attend a meeting, you really liked it and you want to review it, now you know where you can come find it. Or let's say, for instance, you missed one. You were here with us Monday, Tuesday, you couldn't make it Wednesday, you make it Thursday and Friday, and you want to go review what you missed. That's another thing that you could do with this. Also, outside of the time we have together each day, the 45 minutes or so, sometimes people will shoot in here and ask some questions about things that we're going over, and we will go ahead and do the best we can to answer those questions. So good resource for you, definitely a good idea to become part of this group. Okay, next thing I want to point out to you, two things for today, because we are finishing up a book right now called The Power of Awareness. This was by Neville Goddard, and we are actually, we're on one of the last pages right now. We've actually just got 2 chapters left to go through today in this particular book. But The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard, you can go get your own copy of it. I have a Kindle copy. I also have an Audible copy. However, a lot of times if I can find it for you, I will try and find a free copy of whatever we might be going through at the time. And at this moment, it's The Power of Awareness. So you can get a free copy. I just typed in Power of Awareness PDF, and what popped up for me was this, and I like this copy. So it's The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard - Law of, and right above it tells you what website it's coming from, www.law-of-attraction-haven.com, and some other words there. I just went ahead and clicked on that, and right popped up the PDF file. I didn't have to put my name or email or anything like that in. So what I went ahead and did is I just selected the download button for myself, and now I have a copy. And you can go do the same thing so that you can get caught up with us, because we're finishing this today. You could go do that right now, or you can go ahead and do that maybe when we're done, because I'm going to share my screen for now, so you will see what we're going over. Okay, because we are finishing up today with this, I also went, we're not going to go through this whole book, but we are going to go through a chapter of this book. And it is a book called The Hidden Power by Thomas Troward. So I just typed in Hidden Power, Thomas Troward PDF. And the very first one, sometimes I get blessed that way. Sometimes I don't like the first one, the way it's organized or whatever. But this time, again, the very first one that popped up brought me right to the book itself. As you could see, it's a longer book than The Power of Awareness, and we are only going to go through a single chapter, which is going to be chapter 14, which you can find on page 107. So if you want to get a copy of The Hidden Power, then you can follow along in that chapter, not just to follow along, but I guess just not a guess. It would be a good idea for you to go over this more than once. Okay, I have people that I'm coaching going over this more than once. And actually the people that I'm coaching, I'm going to tell them to go get this copy The reason being is what I sent to them originally was shorter and leaves out some things that are in the book. And I've been reading the book. I didn't realize the copy I sent to them was missing some stuff. So that's kind of a notice for you, Stephanie. I know you're on listening right now. You'll want to get this and use this copy of The Spirit of Opulence versus the one that I sent to you. And I'll have to let everybody else know too. So, but this is the one we're going to be using. Yeah, you're welcome. This is what we're going to be using today. So I'm not going to go into a big explanation this time. Typically, I go through all the things we've been to that's led us to where we are, but we're finishing up something right now. So if you'd like to have a synopsis of that, you can go into the Facebook page, join us, and learn more about all the different things we've been doing, because we've been going since November 5th, pretty much every Monday through Friday, minus one Thursday that I didn't make it. And no, it wasn't even the holidays. So we actually went through Thanksgiving. We actually went through Christmas and New Year's. And surprisingly enough, there were quite a few people that chose to be with us. And we knew that you could always catch up with the recording. So what I'm going to do now is jump in where we need to be to keep moving along. And by the way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start reading. I'll add commentary where I feel that it would be appropriate and helpful. If you are following along and you start using the chat function, I just want to share with you that I don't pay attention to chat right now. So if you're trying to ask me questions through chat, there will be a time to ask your questions or share your comments. We try to leave about 10-15 minutes towards the end of what we're doing open to you to do that. Okay. What we'll do is we'll come out of screen share, we'll all be together, and you'll be able to come off mute and share what you want to share or ask whatever question you want to ask. But I just want to let you know that if you're, trying to chat at me and I'm not responding, that's because I'm not even watching what you're doing right now because of what we're trying to accomplish. All right. I'm going to get a sip of water here and we'll get rolling with this. Okay. Chapter 26, Destiny. Your destiny is that which you must inevitably experience. Really, it is an infinite number of individual destinies, each of which, when attained, is the starting place for a new destiny. Since life is infinite, the concept of an ultimate destiny is inconceivable. Let's think about that for a moment. Since life is infinite, the concept of an ultimate destiny is inconceivable. When we understand that consciousness is the only reality, we know that it is the only creator. This means that your consciousness is the center of your destiny. The fact is, you're creating your destiny every moment, whether you know it or not. Much that is good and even wonderful has come into your life without your having any inkling that you were the creator of it. However, the understanding of the causes of your experience and the knowledge that you are the sole creator of the contents of your life, both good and bad, not only make you a much keener observer or of all phenomena, but through the awareness of the power of your own consciousness, intensify your appreciation of the richness and grandeur of life. Regardless of occasional experiences to the contrary, it is your destiny to rise to higher and higher states of consciousness and to bring into manifestation more and more of creation's infinite wonders. Actually, you are destined to reach the point where you realize that through your own desire, you can consciously create your successive destinies. Let me repeat that. Actually, you're destined to reach the point where you realize that through your own desire, you can consciously create your successive destinies. The study of this book, with its detailed exposition of consciousness and the operation of the law of assumption, is the master key to the conscious attainment of your highest destiny. This very day, start your new life. Approach every experience in a new frame of mind, with a new state of consciousness. Assume the noblest and the best for yourself in every respect and continue therein. Make believe, great wonders are possible. And chapter 27, reverence. Never wouldst thou have made anything if thou hadst not loved it. In all creation, in all eternity, in all the realms of your infinite being, the most wonderful fact is that which is stressed in the first chapter of this book. You are God. Okay. Some of you guys need a little explanation there. All right. And I'm going to share what my thoughts and feelings and opinion is about this just real quick so we can move on through this, especially if you haven't been following along with this, because some of you guys might have a problem with that. Okay. My personal thought and feeling is this about God, the person that we refer to typically as God through most religions. Okay. I believe personally that God is someone who, someone, not something. I believe that God is someone who has already walked through the experience that we're going through right now. He has or learned through, who knows how long it took him, he has learned how to work with the laws of the universe in perfect harmony so that when he actually says that something will be, it is. His awareness of his own consciousness to create and to control things, and control, that word can scare people too, but in the most positive way. God's very, very loving, more loving than any of us are. But God is someone who has already gone through what we're going through. Okay. How long ago that was doesn't really matter, but it's been long enough for him to progress to the point where he is. So he knows perfectly how to do what it is that we're trying to do, which in a sense, us, even at our stage, whether we're, 18 years old or 50 something or older, okay, we are probably more in the stage of infancy in relationship to God, even though we are possibly adults on planet Earth. So when I give that perspective and you think of how much God would have grown from infancy to where he is now, and you take the fact that we have all lived forever, where we're not just going to die and poof out of existence, but we have existed and we will continue to exist. Well, God has existed and will continue to exist. And God has just had more time to go through the process of learning that we're going through. And think about this for a minute. If you live forever, and I'm just going to make up a number of years, right? It'll be inconceivable to us. And you have now passed on from this life. Okay. You're done in this particular stage of life. You're moving on to the next stage of progression and maybe stages to continue on. If you lived for an additional, let's call it 100,000 or 200 or 300,000 years, and you could to continue on to learn more about who you are and what you're capable of doing, don't you think eventually you would get better at it than you are today? You would become way more aware of how things worked, and you would get better at doing what it is you're trying to do. So I believe that God is that being, someone who has maybe 300,000, maybe 300 million. It doesn't matter. It may be hard to conceive, but we are infinite. We're not just here to, when we hit a certain age or some accident happens to us, to poof out of existence, but we are here to continue on and to continue to progress. And again, if we were to progress for 300,000 years or 3 million years or 300 million years, that might be, again, hard to conceive. But if we were to continue to live and progress that long, don't you think we would get better and better and better and better at, again, obeying the laws, knowing how they operated, and only creating that for ourselves and manifesting that for ourselves, which we truly want, versus in our infant stage right now, kind of struggling to make that happen. Okay. So when this says you are God, that just means, in my mind, that we have, just like if we are an infant of a parent, okay, if you're an infant of a parent and you grow up to be a full adult, like your parent is, and you gain the wisdom, knowledge, and experience and things like that they've gained, wouldn't you be capable of doing what it is that they do? And the answer to that is very likely yes. Okay. So given enough time and enough experience to do things over centuries and thousands and millions of years, I believe that we will have the opportunity to learn more about who we are, what we're capable of, and we'll get better at it. So when I say you are God, you know what, if my father's name is, I'm just going to make up a name instead of give my dad's name. But let's say my father's name was Stephen, right? I might, as I get older, look like Stephen. I might, as I get older, act a little bit like Stephen. I definitely, if Stephen is my teacher and my friend and my mentor and my trainer, won't I develop a lot of the attributes that Stephen has as I grow up? And eventually, when I get to the age of that Stephen is today, when I reach that age in my progression, wouldn't I probably be capable of doing pretty much the same things that Stephen could do? And I would say that that's yes. Okay. So anyhow, those are my thoughts and feelings about God. God is someone who loves us and is wanting us to go through the process of learning and is actually helping us do it so that we will eventually be capable of doing the types of things that he's capable of doing. Okay. You are the I am that I am. You are consciousness. You are the creator. This is the mystery, and we're just doing it in an infant stage. We're still creating at that infant stage. We're just not as proficient. Okay. This is the mystery. This is the great secret known by the seers, prophets, and mystics throughout the ages. This is the truth that you can never know intellectually. Who is this you? That it is you, John Jones or Mary Smith, is absurd. It is the consciousness which knows that you are John Jones or Mary Smith. It is your greatest self, your deeper self, your infinite being. Call it what you will. The important thing is that it is written, or it is within you. It is you. It is your world. It is this fact that underlies the immutable law of assumption. It is upon this fact that your very existence is built. It is this fact that is the foundation of every chapter of this book. No, you cannot know this intellectually. You cannot debate it. You cannot substantiate it. You can only feel it. You can only be aware of it. Becoming aware of it, one great emotion permeates your being. You live with a perpetual feeling of reverence. The knowledge that your creator is the very self of yourself and never would have made you had he not loved you. But let's see. Had he not loved you, must fill your heart with devotion. Got it. Yes, and adoration. So let me reread that. The knowledge that your creator is the very self of yourself and never would have made you had he not loved you must fill your heart with devotion. Yes, with adoration. One knowing glimpse of the world about you at any single instant of time is sufficient to fill you with profound awe and a feeling of worship. And that's towards God the Father and all that's been created. It is when your feeling of reverence is most intense that you're closest to God. And this is that God, okay? Not when you're closest to yourself, although you will feel closest to who you really are. Because deep down inside, we all know, and maybe instead of moving us infant, let's maybe put us in kindergarten, okay? In kindergarten, we feel like we can do some things. In infant, we don't feel like we can do anything. We are probably more like in kindergarten, okay? And when you're closest to God, your life is richest. Our deepest feelings are precisely those we are least able to express. And even in the act of adoration, silence is our highest praise. All right. So that is the finish of this particular book. We are going to jump into the Spirit of Opulence right here. And just making this a little bigger. So as we read through it, it's easier for you guys to see. Okay, so this is chapter 14 of the book by Thomas Troward, which definitely was written a long time ago, called The Hidden Power. It is quite a mistake to suppose that we must restrict and stint ourselves in order to develop greater power or usefulness. This is to form the conception of the divine power as so limited that the best use we can make of it is by a policy of self-starvation, whether material or mental. Of course, if we believe that some form of self-starvation is necessary to our producing good work, then so long as we entertain this belief, the fact actually is so for us. Whatsoever is not of faith, that is, not in accordance with our honest belief, is sin. And by acting contrary to what we really believe, we bring in suggestion of opposition to the divine spirit, which must necessarily paralyze our efforts and surround us with a murky atmosphere of distrust and want of joy. But all this exists in and is produced by our belief. And when we come to examine the grounds of this belief, we shall find that it rests upon the entire misapprehension of the nature of our own power. If we clearly realize that the creative power in ourselves is unlimited, then there is no reason for limiting the extent to which we may enjoy what we can create by means of it. Where we are drawing from the infinite, we need never be afraid of taking more than our share. Let me repeat that. That's important to understand. Okay? Where we are drawing from the infinite, we need never be afraid of taking more than our share. I'm going to say this again because I know a lot of people have a problem. If I have more, someone else has less. Or if I'm succeeding and living a life that's joyful and others are suffering and feeling pain and despair, something must be wrong with me. Where we are drawing from the infinite, we need never be afraid of taking more than our share. That is not where the danger lies. The danger is in not sufficiently realizing our own richness and in looking upon the externalized products of our creative power as being the true riches instead of the creative power of spirit itself. If we avoid this error, there's no need to limit ourselves in taking what we will from the infinite storehouse. All things are yours. The way to avoid this error is by realizing that the true wealth is in identifying ourselves with the spirit of opulence. We must be opulent in our thought. Do not think money as such, for it is only one means of opulence. But think opulence, that is, largely, generously, liberally, and you will find that the means of realizing this thought will flow to you from all quarters, whether as money or as 100 other things not to be reckoned in cash. We must not make ourselves dependent on any particular form of wealth, or insist on its coming to us through some particular channel. That is at once to impose a limitation and to shut out other forms of wealth and to close other channels. But we must enter into the spirit of it. I'm going to repeat this because, again, this is something that a lot of people, I had challenges with this at one point and I needed to change. We must not make ourselves dependent on any particular form of wealth, or here's the big one, or insist on its coming to us through some particular channel. It's got to come to me through my job, or it's got to come to me through my business that I'm in right now. It's got to come to me through this way. What happens when we do that? That is at once to impose a limitation and to shut out other forms of wealth and to close other channels. And who the heck would want to do that? Did you know that that's what you're doing? That is at once to impose a limitation and to shut out other forms of wealth and to close other channels. See, God is unlimited in the number of channels and types of channels and where the channels come from, that he can deliver to us the good that we ask for. But we must enter into the spirit of it. Now, the spirit is life, and throughout the universe, life ultimately consists in circulation, whether within the physical body of the individual or on the scale of the entire solar system. A circulation means a continual flowing around. And the spirit of opulence is no exception to this universal law of all life. When once the principle becomes clear to us, we shall see that our attention should be directed rather to the giving than the receiving. We must look upon ourselves not as miser's chests to be kept locked up for our own benefit, but as centers of distribution. And the better we fulfill our function as such centers, the greater will be the corresponding inflow. If we choke the outlet, the current must slacken, and a full and free flow can be obtained only by keeping it open. The spirit of opulence, the opulent mode of thought, that is, consists in cultivating the feeling that we possess all sorts of riches which we can bestow upon others, and which we can bestow liberally, because by this very action we open the way for still greater supplies to flow in. But you say, I'm short of money. I hardly know how to pay for the necessaries. What have I to give? The answer is that we must always start from the point where we are. And if your wealth at the present moment is not abundant on the material plane, you need not trouble to start on that plane. There are other sorts of wealth, still more valuable on the spiritual and intellectual planes, which you can give. And you can start from this point and practice the spirit of opulence, even though your balance at the bank may be nil. And then the universal law of attraction will begin to assert itself. You will not only begin to experience an inflow on the spiritual and intellectual planes, but it will extend itself to the material plane also. If you have realized the spirit of opulence, you cannot help drawing to yourself material good, as well as that higher wealth, which is not to be measured by a money standard. Let me repeat this. If you have realized the spirit of opulence, you cannot help drawing to yourself material good, as well as that higher wealth, which is not to be measured by a money standard. And because you truly understand the spirit of opulence, you will neither affect to despise this form of good, nor will you attribute to it a value that does not belong to it, but you will coordinate it with your other more interior forms of wealth, so as to make it the material instrument in smoothing the way for their more perfect expression. Used thus, with understanding of the relation which it bears to spiritual and intellectual wealth, material wealth becomes one with them, and is no more to be shunned and feared than it is to be sought for its own sake. It is not money, but the love of money that is the root of evil. And the spirit of opulence is precisely the attitude of mind which is furthest removed from the love of money for its own sake. It does not believe in money. What it does believe in is the generous feeling, which is the intuitive recognition of the great law of circulation, which does not in any undertaking make its first question, how am I going to get by it? But how much am I going to do by it? And making this the first question, the getting will flow in with generous profusion and with spontaneous spontaneousness. I know I'm saying that wrong, but you get what I mean. And rightness of direction that are absent when our first thought is of receiving only. We are not called upon to give what we have not yet got and to run into debt, but we are to give liberally of that, of what we have, with the knowledge that by so doing, we're setting the law of circulation to work. And as this law brings us greater and greater inflow of every good kind of good, so our outgiving will increase, not by depriving ourselves of any expansion of our own life that we may desire, but by finding that every expansion makes us the more powerful instruments for expanding the life of others. Live and let live is the motto of true opulence. Now, let me go to this for a second because of what we talked about, I think yesterday, or whichever day it was. We're not called upon to give what we have not yet got and run into debt. Does any single one of you live in a house that when you acquired it was not paid for in full? Or is any person here renting from someone else a place to live? Let me repeat that. Is any, and I'm not asking you to answer right now, but I want you to think about this. Any of you living in a place currently, or maybe in the past, when you first acquired the place, that you did not pay for in full, but you were required to make a monthly sort of payment to be allowed to live there for the amount of time that you want to live there, or to own it for the amount of time you want to own it. So was that debt? depends on how you define debt. Okay. Was it, or do you consider it a blessing from God, many of you, because I've heard stories of how you've received some of these things. Do many of you consider the place that you live, the shelter that you have, a blessing from God, even though you may not have paid for it in full? I would. Okay. Many of you asked God to bless you with a place to live. Maybe you asked for a specific place to live, and maybe you did not pay cash for that place. So what are we saying right here? Okay. There's a way of going into debt when we are fearful. That's when we go into debt, is when we use money unwisely and make decisions with fear. However, when we are guided and directed through inspiration, revelation, and intuition to do something that may cause us something like buying a house, possibly getting a car that gets us around, okay, we may actually go into debt. But if we are guided to do that by God and the universe to do so, and we trust that they will help us pay it back and remove that debt and wipe it away, was that something that we should do? And I think most of you would agree that the answer is yes. Okay. I would say that when we're talking about being an investor, if that's what some of you choose to be or choose to do, I know many investors, particularly real estate investors, that have used debt as a tool to acquire more wealth and to acquire more cash flow and to build up their income, because it was what they were supposed to do, and they're using it the way they're supposed to use it, and they're not doing it in fear, but they're doing it with thanks and gratitude. Therefore, it works out. Okay, so I just wanted to say, sometimes we read a little sentence and then we hear what we want to hear, or see what we want to see. But debt in and of itself isn't a bad thing. The way we acquire the debt and what we use it for, that will determine if it's a good or bad thing for us. So I wanted to share that because almost everybody is living somewhere. Some of you guys have your places paid off, but the majority of you don't. Okay. And that doesn't mean you're not supposed to live somewhere. And by the way, if you're renting a place, essentially, right, that's a form of debt. You don't have the ability to live there for as long as you want to live there just because you want to live there. So if you're renting, it's not a whole lot different than somebody who has a mortgage that's paying. You still don't own that which you're using. Thing goes with our electricity, our cell phones, and things like that. Now, if we go out and just spend and create debt for ourselves without being guided and directed to do so, because it's not actually going to bring us a return, and we're not receiving help from God in the universe to actually replace that money and retire that debt, then that's probably not the best of ideas. All right. Let's see. And I believe actually where we finished was the end of that chapter. Okay, cool. Now is a good time to come off here. And let's see, we've got a few more people that have joined us since we got started. Good to see everybody. I'm trying to see if there's anybody I've never seen before. Anybody here that's never been here before? Do you mind coming off mute really quick and just say hello? All right, so I'm going to assume we've all been here before. That's part of why I asked that question, so I don't have to go over what it is we're going to do. Now is the time to share what you want to share and ask the questions that you want to ask. So it is open for you to do that. Take it away, guys. Is everybody shell-shocked or something?
I just wanted to say, it's me, Tanya, and I just wanted to say I love the word opulence. And this reading was so appropriate today because I believe I've been thinking that way. And the reminder of not necessarily trying to focus how something is going to come to you was very, very valuable. Because I think we all get tripped up into that. And opulence is just a wonderful expression. So I really am grateful to you, Kevin, for picking this particular reading today. I've been thinking a lot on it, and thank you.
You are absolutely welcome. Maybe it was for you that I chose it. I just follow intuition, inspiration, and revelation. So awesome. Thank you, Tanya. Anybody else? Any comments or questions? Wow. Maybe I've bitten too many of you. You're like, you know what? I'm going to do something a little bit different right now for a few minutes. Some of you might disappear as I start doing it because you'll be like, oh, crap. I'm going to just ask a few of you, and I'm going to just call out your name and ask you what you're thinking and how you're feeling so far going along with the group, because I know I'm going to just ask some of you that have been with us for quite a while. Now, for some reason, you can't come off mute or whatever. If you could just chat really quick and say you can't, I'll understand. But I'm going to ask Everett, if you don't mind, to just share with us, you know, any thoughts you have about, because I know you've been with us on and off over the last 3 months or so. And I just want to hopefully know that you're getting something out of this and would like you to maybe share how you feel about what we're doing.
Everything about what we're doing is real good. It's taking a process to reprogram your mind sometimes. When your mind kind of be on one level, you start to have to think positive and think of, you know, imagine stuff. And that's something I never did, was imagine. So it's being a process. It's not coming overnight, but I'm very well getting into it. I guess the progress I've been making, I was a real estate agent, you know, and I was like, maybe like 15 years ago. So I just, you know, I guess through the process of class time, I've gotten back into it. And basically it's like one of my fears. Something I got into, I couldn't succeed. I'm in the process now of getting a license, marketing, getting something I've never tried is a virtual assistant to
Awesome.
I think I'm getting, from my progress I'm doing, it seems like I'm getting a lot because I'm building a lot of momentum all of a sudden. So I would say it's helping. And I'm reading, but I'm still working on that programming and working on that imagination and seeing it. So everything's going good.
Awesome.
I'll be here. I'm here.
Awesome. Thanks, Everett, for sharing. I don't know, and again, if you can't or you choose not to, that's okay. I don't know that we've heard from Sorsha in the recent past. I'm not even sure if we've heard from you before, but it'd be wonderful to have you express maybe your opinion and what you've been getting out of this, if you would like to.
I've gotten so much out of this. I discovered you through obviously through a meetup, but I started following Robert Kiyosaki the beginning of 2020. And so that's what kind of led me to this group. And then now I'm more into manifestation, all that kind of stuff. And then you led me to Bob Proctor, and I've gained so much from it, while I'm cleaning and working out. And so I really appreciate this group so much.
Thank you. And nice to hear your voice. I don't know if you've done that yet, so I appreciate you taking a moment to do that.
No, but I will definitely. I'll do it more and share more and stuff. My little process.
Okay, very cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. I think actually you're pretty new with us, Kimberly. However, if you don't mind sharing, maybe, I don't know if this is your first meeting or if this is your 100th, but if you don't mind coming, Kimberly, and sharing.
See, I manifested that I was going to be the next person, and then you said my name.
Okay.
I already said that, so I'm going to be next. I know it.
There you go.
But Yeah, but this has been, for the short time that I've been here, it's been very good information for me. I like how it's a daily process that you do, because I think that that helps me to think about this every day. I think I've sort of did a little bit of this on my own in the past, but it definitely hasn't been a daily thought process. So in order to make these classes and these listenings, it makes it a daily project for me now, and it really helps. So I've always believed in it. I've seen, I believe, some fruits of that belief in the past, but just to get the additional reference points and additional literature, and then additional strategies that you give has been wonderful, because I believe in this whole positive thinking. Not that I was doing it every day, but when there was something that I wanted to manifest, I would give it to give it to the atmosphere, and I was never disappointed. So this daily remembrance and teachings is great for me. Thank you.
And you're welcome. Thank you for sharing, Kimberly. Any anybody else that would like to share anything else today, or any questions? I haven't really gotten any questions today. Okie dokie. Well, tomorrow we'll start a new one, a new project. So come join us tomorrow to find out what that is, what we're going to be doing for a little while. Thank you guys for being.
Wait, sorry. This is
Okay.
Karen.
Yeah, hi,
I just
Takira.
like to say something. Hi, I was actually thinking of you last night because I heard you guys. I couldn't meet up on the group yesterday, but when you posted it, I listened to it and I was like, wow, what a nice time they had without me. Because you were so like, it was just a nice thing with Lillian and everybody, and Sunshine and her questions. So what works for me is like the other people's not problems, but their questions. You always give an answer that I could use when you're talking to someone else. And I've now become like real chill in my manifestations. Money, I'm not afraid of asking for what I want. When I do my mental spending, I don't fear about having enough, because in my mind, I have a lot of money. And before, I was poverty stricken mentally. But being on this group, I just walked into a store and mentally spent $7,000 today. And I said, I want a mink. How much is your mink? He said 2,400. I said, okay, like, oh, that's nothing, And then I'm walking and someone's like, your fur is really nice. This is a fake fur, but people are believing that that is real. And I'm just like, you're doing a great job. And then I also just pay my tithes to this small business owner of a pizzeria. I gave him my 10%, and he was like about to cry. And I'm like, when you just read about giving, it's like the universe keeps giving me more money to give. I don't know where it's coming from. It's not the amounts that I really, really want yet, but I'm grateful for it. So I don't know, it's just working for me, and everybody is awesome on this chat thing. I don't know how you manifest this, but you have a group of good people following you. So I don't know if your ties is to give this, because this is free that you're giving to us, and I don't know, this is your 10%, but it's really working for me. And I just appreciate you giving it to us for free.
This isn't as much my tithe as it's funny. You could do things for selfish purposes and do good things. I do tithe. I've tithed 10% of my increase pretty much since age 12. So we're going 40-ish years. That's a habit that I've had. I've slipped from it a long time ago. Back in my 20s, I slipped from it for a few years, but then came back to it. But as far as what this is when you talk about, if you go back to the science of getting rich, this is the impression of increase. So one, I'm giving increase and working on helping you guys, but also on a selfish level, I love what, let's see, where it was Kimberly, what she said, right? That I do this daily. Well, I know I do more than just this, but I know that by setting myself up to commit to you guys to do this daily, well, guess who else has to study the material?
You do.
I mean, I could go not study it, right? But the point is, if I learned a lot of times I won't do things for me that I will do for others. That's my personality, because we all, you guys too, this givingness that we have, right? So if I commit to you guys that I'll do it, then there's never, at least for 5 days out of the week, I would never miss doing my own personal development study, right? Because I'm doing it with you. Now I do more than the hours so we have together each day right now. But I'm actually, you guys don't know this, but I'm actually getting ready to commit to doing another one every day at a different time. Because there are people within Meetup that just can't make this time. So I'm thinking of doing one 2 hours from when this one started. And they'll be on a slightly different track of time, but it'll go through the same material. So at my time, it's 10. I'm probably going to do it at 10, continue to do it at 10, and also do it at noon. Because there's another group of people out there. Well, and you guys are welcome to be there, right? It might shrink who shows up on this one. That's fine. The numbers aren't the most important thing, but there are people out there that I guarantee that would like to have heard this, but they've never shown up to one of these because it always pops in when they can't be there. They don't know they can just go watch the recordings and stuff like that.
On YouTube, yeah. And what's the title of this book that we just finished or that we're reading?
The one we did today, the chapters, The Spirit of Opulence.
The Spirit of Opulence.
Yeah, by Thomas Troward. The book itself is, hang on a sec, The Hidden Power by Thomas Troward.
Okay.
Now, Thomas Troward, and this is all good. Go ahead and get it, read it. Thomas Troward is really deep. Okay. Bob Proctor will tell you that too. That's one where he still studies it constantly. Things written by Thomas Troward. Thomas Troward, he believes, is the best author that's been around in the last 100 years. However, he's someone that you better be ready to think. He's not there for entertainment. And The Spirit of Opulence is actually one of the easier chapters to deal with. But it's so important to understand that, hey, it's okay to have what we want, and we're not keeping anybody else from having what they want just because we get what we want. And we shouldn't feel guilty if another person is in pain and suffering and whatever. It's due to their thinking. It's not due to outside things. It's due to how they think and feel about what's happening around them. The only way we can truly help that person long term is to help them think differently. We can feed them, we can give them a new house, a new car, we can put new clothes on them, we could give them these checks that are coming out from the government, but they're going to go away. And that person will still be left with who they are if they don't change what they're thinking. That goes for all of us. So the best thing that we can do is just do the best that we can do and be the best we can be, and then share what it is that we've learned with other people so that they, not trying to force it upon anybody. That's why I like this format. I put it out there in Meetup, and it's only those of you that want to be here that showed up. I didn't go around and tell everybody, hey, here's what I'm doing. You need to show up or else, or I won't be your friend if you don't show up, or anything like that. It was like, okay, what should I call this? Who do I want to attract? And, those of you that show up, you're here because you want to. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm going to try to use that with my business because I'm not forcing it. I'm just like, whenever you say it's time, God, I'm just going to follow your lead to have what you want me to have within this business and who you want me to work with and what children you want me to serve. And I just chill. And nothing has happened major in a couple of days. But I did go to sleep last night and I dreamt about, all I could remember was my dreams said, work on your website. Literally, that's all I can remember. So I don't know what that means, Kevin, but I'm just going to work on my website. I don't know why, but it seems inspiring because it was very loud and clear. So, thanks, Landon. You like my hair? But yeah, thanks, Kevin. You're the best.
All right. Any other questions or comments before we go today?
So Kevin and Sunshine, how are you doing today?
Awesome.
I'm going to share two quick things because I know we were getting ready to go. One thing is that I've been trying to manifest this promotion. It's about double my income now. It's been a process. I went through the certification in June or July, and I went through a different class in September, and I've been mentoring and stuff like that and shadowing. And I also landed a volunteer position, so that way I could at least have it on my resume, because they were turning away people who had no experience at all. And so a number of things were coming up, and I kind of got this revelation to network. Me as an introvert, even though I'm a social introvert, I don't know, there's something terrifying, but I'm looking at the networking as being paving the way for making when I have to reach out to people and doing my voiceover business, making it feel more comfortable.
Okay.
Because they say that you have to just think of it like you're going to get 99 no's and then one yes. So if you prepare for the no's, then you'll know that the yes is on the way. And then the other thing I wanted to share, I don't normally do this. I picked up this book and it's Our Daily Bread. And I found it interesting when I opened it today was a verse from Habakkuk. And I don't know if you remember, but for the Steve Harvey 300 list, he also quoted from Habakkuk.
Yeah.
And it said, this one says Habakkuk 2:3, though it linger, wait for it. And I won't read through it, but there's been reminders lately for me to just keep putting in the plow, because whatever it is, it's coming. And I feel it sometimes, it's going to be big. And I'm like, okay, don't get anxious for it and be like, oh, it's not coming. It's coming. You just have to keep making the faith investments and putting in the seeds.
Gotcha.
So thank you, because this has been amazing and right on par with what I needed.
I hopped into screen share on purpose because I'm going to share with you a book that's going to help you with the networking. That's going to be
okay.
That's going to be different than probably anybody would ever tell you. There's definitely books out there.
Okay.
However, here we go. This book is written by someone, I got to actually know the author. And it is a phenomenally good book for this. And it's very service oriented. And also, though, it has some great tactics. So I'm just trying to find it on Amazon so you can see it. Computer goes slightly slower when I'm running this, running Zoom at the same time as all this other stuff. But
No worries.
Here it comes, I think. I hope. If not, I'll just tell you what it is in a moment. But here we go. This book here is written by Michael Mayer, cool guy. Like I said, I got to know him. And we've had an opportunity to talk for about a half an hour together. And I definitely would say that this is, if you follow what happens. So let me give you a little background. We got any realtors in here? They might know about this book. I know we have realtors in the group. I just can't remember who's on today that's a realtor. But this person.
I haven't heard of it.
You have or haven't?
I haven't, but I'm about to get ready I'm writing the name down now. I'm about to get it. So
let me tell you Michael's background when he wrote the book. Michael was the #1 most referred realtor in North America. He was getting over 4 without, by the way, without asking for referrals. So imagine that one. You're like, huh? He didn't just, he wasn't that person that went out. No, he did it. He did this totally differently and tactically. And it was phenomenal what he did. But he literally, I think the number, I believe the number exceeds, he was getting over 400 referrals a year. And these were people that really did want to buy homes. Okay. Imagine any realtor, any of you, how would you like to have 400 referrals that actually are contacting you or you're contacting them, and they're not just typing into a website, I want more information on this house. They're actually reaching out to you, or they've given you permission to contact them because they actually want to work with you. What would your income do as that kind of realtor, right? So I share that with you. For a realtor, highly recommend you go get this book. Absolutely 100%. However, anybody that's into networking, read this book and follow the formula that he shares, and you will be shocked and amazed at how well it helps you grow what you're doing.
Kevin, thank you so much for this book, because ever since I got the revelation to do networking, I've been trying to follow the guidance. I've Googled multiple ways, and sometimes I think it's from being a Scorpio, I'm just like really blunt and direct. Like beating around the bush is not my thing. But I read through some things like the Muse, and then I had a plan, and I have it written down, but like it wasn't a terror barrier. It was almost like a don't do that. And then I realized after why there was a stop there. But it's interesting that you gave this book and you said that the person had over 400 referrals without even really talking to people, because one of the main things
he talked to people, he didn't ask for referrals.
Oh, that's what I meant. My apologies. And one of my main goals when I started my voiceover business, my coach would ask me, what do you want to do? And I told them I wanted to have a six-figure income. Like that's always been like my starting point. And people have tried to kind of steer me away and put doubt in my head. And I've kind of separated myself from those people because it wasn't necessarily, like, I know it takes hard work and dedication, but I was sure that there was a way that I could make this work for me. So thank you. And I'll let you know about all that I've read and gleaned from it.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And you'll have to do things a little different than what he does because of COVID, but let God and the universe guide that part. Because he met with a lot of different people physically, but you can certainly do exactly what he's talking about virtually too. You just have to get a little bit creative about how you do it, but do what he talks about. It's pretty amazing. It will also help you increase not only the size of your sphere of influence, but more importantly, the quality of your sphere of influence. And not that I say one human being is more important than another, but when I'm talking about quality, I'm talking about it will help you have the best of the best want to actually refer you, which is really cool.
Good. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. I'm still here and I'm still feeling it. So if anybody needs or would like to ask an additional question or share something great, either way, I can be here for a few more minutes, or we can come back tomorrow, which we're going to come back tomorrow anyway, but it's up to you guys. So you guys are probably occasionally surprised a little bit, like, okay, the dude knows a little bit about law of attraction stuff, but I did not realize the entrepreneur and business person that he is and has been. Just because I wear a t-shirt when I get on here. I haven't worn.
I'll jump in, Kevin.
Yeah, I haven't worn a suit and tie, by the way, in years. That was part of my goal. I mean, I put it on for church and stuff like that, but I really haven't worn a suit and tie hardly at all since 06.
You
Yes,
look
Stephanie.
great in a suit and tie, Kevin. What's your favorite color? I wanted to ask you that. I'm guessing green.
Depends on what it is that what it is that it's the
Okay.
color of it is. Some things I like, and by the way, Stephanie, I'll get you in a sec. You know, I tend to like blue for certain things, clothes and stuff. I like red for Ferraris, you know what I mean? So it just as a kid growing up, my favorite color was red. So if I were to say the first favorite color I ever had was red. And more of the darker red versus the orangey red. More of the red with the blue in it versus the red with orange in it. So I like Ferrari red better than Corvette red. Not because it's a Ferrari versus a Corvette, but just because that's the color of the red. Okay, Stephanie.
You're the only person I've ever heard to describe reds in that way. I was laughing. But it was good. I think most people would have said fire engine red or apple red or something. But anyway, that just shows your desire, your love for cars. I just wanted to piggyback on what Takira had said earlier about the people on the call. And I don't think it's coincidence that the folks that are on here for the majority of the calls, you know, there's a reason for that. There's an attraction in and of itself just with this particular group. I know some folks come in and out and whatnot, and maybe it's not for them or just timing, but it's also been helpful for me. And as Takira mentioned, I know I'm doing the coaching with you on the side, and I'm really excited to get started with that smaller group, because everything that she's talking about, I think we'll just build on that with the smaller group and the energy level that will be generated from that. And then every time, you know, someone's talking, I get something out of just about everything that is shared from the group, whether it was Sunshine a moment ago or Takira or anyone for that matter. Thanks. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks. I'd love to have, I still do. I mean, but I need to get that group going. So I'm planning on, you know, telling the group next week, hey, here's kind of the official get everybody together things. So those of you who are thinking about it and hesitating, come on. Okay. Some of you, I get it. Some of you, you know, you need a miracle. Great. Here's what I will tell those of you that have credit, have money or whatever. God's not going to provide the miracle. He's not going to provide the miracle because you already have the ability. What he will provide is the miracle to replace what you use. But God doesn't typically provide you the miracle when you already have the means. And you're like, well, I don't have cash sitting there, discretionary income to go have fun with that I would go to Disneyland with, but I'm going to do this. You're like, look, whatever forms of credit, whatever forms of assets, whatever stocks and bonds you could go sell, whatever it is that you could do, you could do. One of the people that's become one of Bob Proctor's very best coaches, she lives actually in Ireland. I think she and I are in a very similar caliber, so I'll put her in one of his best ones. She, to get started, sold her car. I'm not talking like sold another car. But essentially, when she was making her decision, besides knowing it was right, it was like, look, if I step out and do this, and it does work out for me. So she was going towards the positive. She didn't know 100%. And it does work out for me. I would never have to worry about money again, ever, for the rest of my life. And Bob Proctor says, look, if you follow through and do what it is that you're asked to do, you're going to need a telescope to look back a year from now and see where you were. So she literally, it was her transportation. It was what she got to and from work. So she had to find a different way for a little bit. But for her, that first year, but she literally had in her bank of it, she's like, and I don't know what their money is, okay? But she essentially had like 4 pounds, okay? Right? She had essentially 4 pounds to her name plus her car. And she sold her car, and she had to, for her training, because it was in live, it was group training, but it was live. She had to go from Ireland to Toronto. But her first year, as a result of what she went through and the commitment, that's what God, she was telling the universe, is she made like $350,000, $400,000. Now she's about 4 or 5 years into it. She's well over a couple million a year. So cut it out, guys. Okay. Now, if you feel like I'm not the person, I get that. But if you feel like it is, and you're basically looking at God, you're not trusting him. You're not trusting, and you need to. And maybe that's what you should ask for, is to trust him. But if you don't join us, that doesn't mean, that, again, we'll still be here Monday through Friday. Might even be here, like I talked about, an additional time Monday through Friday. And you might think that that's everything that you need. Okay, maybe it is. I don't know. But I'm telling you, if you felt the nudge to receive the help, and you're just coming up with the, I don't have the money, or I have the ability, but I don't want to use that. I don't want to ask Uncle Joe. There's no way I can go ask Uncle Joe because Uncle Joe will laugh at me. If you feel inspired to ask Uncle Joe, go ask Uncle Joe. I've had to do that at times, and it always worked. And it's amazing how fast God blessed me when I did it. So anyhow, with that, I will let you guys go and look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thanks, Kevin. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Have a
You're
good
welcome.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're very, very, very
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you very much, Kevin.